Let me start with a simple truth. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they decide, consciously or unconsciously, that something is impossible before they even try. The moment you accept something as impossible, you give away your power. You hand control of your future to fear, doubt, and past experiences. But the moment you decide to act like nothing is impossible, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see possibilities where others see obstacles. You begin to find strength where others find excuses. Your mindset defines your limits, not your circumstances. Think about that. Two people can face the same problem. One sees a dead end, the other sees a challenge. One quits, the other grows. The difference is not intelligence, it is belief. When you believe something is possible, your brain starts searching for solutions. When you believe something is impossible, your brain searches for excuses. Your belief system becomes the filter through which you interpret reality. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is a signal. Fear shows up when you are standing at the edge of growth. It appears when you are about to step beyond who you used to be. And instead of treating fear as a stop sign, treat it as a green light. Fear is not telling you to retreat. Fear is telling you that what you're about to do matters. Every meaningful achievement in human history started with someone who was afraid and acted anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement in spite of fear. Belief fuels action, and action builds confidence. Most people wait until they feel confident before they act. That's backward. Confidence is not the starting point. Action is. You don't gain confidence by thinking about success. You gain confidence by doing difficult things, by showing up when it's uncomfortable, and by continuing when progress feels slow. Small actions repeated daily create unstoppable momentum. You don't need massive motivation, you need consistent movement. A single step taken today is more powerful than a perfect plan delayed forever. Discipline beats motivation when motivation fades. Motivation is emotional, it comes and goes. Discipline is a commitment. Discipline is deciding in advance who you want to become and acting in alignment with that identity, especially on days when you don't feel like it. When you act with discipline, you build self-trust, and self-trust becomes confidence. Confidence becomes courage. Courage becomes results. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Build habits that move you forward. Build routines that support your growth. Build standards that refuse to accept mediocrity. Purpose turns struggle into strength. When you know your why, the how becomes easier. Pain becomes meaningful. Struggle becomes valuable. Failure becomes feedback. When your actions are connected to purpose, quitting is no longer an option. You don't move forward because it's easy, you move forward because it matters, and when something truly matters, you don't ask, is this possible? You ask, what must I do to make it happen? Act like nothing is impossible, not because it's easy, not because it's guaranteed, but because your potential is far greater than your fear. The limits you feel are not real, they are stories you've been told and stories you've repeated to yourself. Today, choose to rewrite those stories. Choose to act boldly. Choose to move despite uncertainty. Choose to believe before you see results. Because the moment you start acting like nothing is impossible, you don't just change what you do, you change who you become. Most people don't struggle because they lack talent, resources, or opportunity. They struggle because they accept limitations that were never meant to define them. Somewhere along the way, they were taught to be realistic, to be careful, to not expect too much, and slowly those lessons became beliefs. Beliefs that whisper, this is impossible, before they ever give themselves a chance to try. But the truth is, nothing extraordinary has ever been achieved by people who acted ordinary. When you decide to act like nothing is impossible, you shift the way you see the world. You stop asking what you can't do and start asking what it would take. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and begin creating momentum with imperfect action. You realize that progress is not about giant leaps, but about small, courageous steps taken consistently. Fear will always show up when you're about to grow. That doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Fear is a signal that something important is happening. And instead of letting fear control your decisions, you can let it guide your direction. Every time you move forward despite fear, you expand your capacity. You become stronger, braver, and more capable than you were before. Confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from effort. It comes from trying, failing, learning, and trying again. Each attempt builds evidence that you can handle discomfort, that you can survive uncertainty, and that you can rise after falling. Over time, this becomes belief, and belief becomes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who hopes. You become someone who acts. Discipline is the bridge between desire and reality. Motivation is temporary. It fades when things get difficult. Discipline remains. It is the decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. It is the commitment to your future self made in the present moment. When you choose discipline, you build trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of all lasting success. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort seems wasted, when doubt grows louder than hope. These are the moments that matter most. Because the ability to continue when there is no immediate reward is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Growth is happening even when you cannot see it. Roots grow in darkness before they ever break the surface. Purpose gives meaning to every struggle. When your actions are connected to something larger than yourself, discomfort becomes bearable. Sacrifice becomes meaningful. Pain becomes part of the journey instead of a reason to quit. Purpose transforms obstacles into lessons and setbacks into preparation. Acting like nothing is impossible does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let reality define your limits. It means choosing courage over comfort, progress over perfection, and purpose over fear. It means understanding that your potential is not fixed. It is shaped by the choices you make every day. And when you commit to this mindset, you don't just change your results. You change your identity. You become someone who moves forward, no matter how uncertain the path may seem. You become someone who believes first, acts boldly, and refuses to give up. And in that commitment, you discover a truth that has always been there waiting for you. You are capable of far more than you ever imagined. At some point in life, almost everyone is taught to lower their expectations, to be practical, to stay safe, to avoid risk, and slowly, without realizing it, they begin to trade their dreams for comfort. They begin to shrink their ambitions to fit inside the boundaries of what feels familiar. And over time, what once felt impossible becomes something they no longer even attempt, but deep inside there is a voice that refuses to be silenced. A quiet reminder of who you were before fear taught you to hesitate. A reminder of the courage you once had to believe without evidence, to dream without limits, and to act without guarantees. Acting like nothing is impossible is not about blind optimism. It is about responsibility. It is about choosing to honor the potential you've been given. It is about refusing to waste the time, talent, and opportunity that exist within you. Every meaningful change begins with a decision. A decision to step forward before you feel ready. A decision to trust yourself before results appear. A decision to take responsibility for your future instead of waiting for permission. Fear will try to convince you that now is not the right time, that you are not prepared, that you are not capable, but fear speaks in predictions, not in truth. It imagines worst-case scenarios and presents them as certainty. Growth, on the other hand, lives in uncertainty. Progress requires trust, and trust is built by taking action when the outcome is unknown. You do not become strong by avoiding struggle. You become strong by surviving it. Every challenge you face is shaping you into someone more capable, more resilient, and more aware. Every setback is teaching you patience. Every failure is refining your approach. Nothing is wasted when you choose to learn instead of quit. Belief is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is choosing again and again to move forward even when doubt is loud. It is choosing to show up even when confidence is low. And with every step, belief becomes stronger, more grounded, and more real. Discipline transforms intention into reality. It is easy to commit when enthusiasm is high. It is difficult to commit when progress is slow. But discipline is the promise you keep to yourself. It is the quiet strength that carries you through moments of exhaustion and uncertainty. It is the foundation upon which all sustainable success is built. Purpose gives direction to discipline. Without purpose, effort becomes draining. With purpose, effort becomes meaningful. When your work is connected to something larger than comfort or recognition, you develop endurance. You develop patience. You develop resilience. Purpose keeps you moving long after motivation disappears. There will be moments when the path ahead feels unclear, when results are delayed, when self-doubt tries to take control. These moments are not signs of failure, they are invitations to trust the process, to trust your preparation, to trust your capacity to adapt and grow. Acting like nothing is impossible does not mean expecting perfection. It means expecting progress. It means choosing courage over certainty and commitment over comfort. It means understanding that your future is not something you wait for. It is something you create, and when you live this way, you begin to realize something extraordinary. The limits you once believed in were never real. They were stories shaped by fear and reinforced by habit. The moment you change those stories, you change your direction. You stop surviving and start building. You stop wishing and start doing. You stop waiting and start becoming. And in that decision, in that commitment to act like nothing is impossible, you don't just transform your outcomes. You transform your life. At the core of every breakthrough, every revolution, every personal transformation, there is a moment of decision. A moment when someone chooses to stop waiting and start becoming, not because the path is clear, not because success is guaranteed, but because staying the same has become more painful than the risk of change. Too many people live their lives preparing, planning, and protecting themselves from failure, yet never truly living. They wait for confidence, for clarity, for permission. They wait for the perfect time, but the perfect time never arrives. And while they wait, opportunity passes quietly, leaving behind regret and unanswered potential. Acting like nothing is impossible is not reckless. It is responsible. It is the decision to no longer betray your future by clinging to your past. It is the understanding that comfort is not safety and certainty is not growth. Growth begins where certainty ends. Fear will always attempt to keep you small. It will remind you of your past mistakes. It will replay your failures, it will magnify your doubts, but fear has no vision for your future. It only knows what has already happened. If you allow fear to guide your decisions, you will always move backward, never forward. Progress requires courage. Courage to take the first step without knowing the next 10. Courage to speak when your voice shakes. Courage to act when your heart races. Courage to believe when evidence is absent. Every time you choose courage, you rewrite your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who hopes. You become someone who leads. Discipline becomes your anchor when emotions rise and fall. It is the quiet commitment that carries you forward when motivation fades. Discipline is choosing to act in alignment with your values, not your moods. It is the daily promise that your goals deserve consistent effort, not occasional enthusiasm. Small actions repeated daily create extraordinary change. The smallest choice to improve, when practiced consistently, compounds into unstoppable momentum. You don't transform your life in a single moment. You transform it through thousands of decisions that seem insignificant at the time, yet shape your destiny. Purpose gives meaning to this effort. Without purpose, effort feels heavy. With purpose, effort becomes fuel. When your work is connected to something larger than comfort, applause, or approval, you develop endurance. You develop patience, you develop resilience. Purpose reminds you why you started when quitting feels tempting. There will be moments when nothing seems to be working, when progress feels invisible, when silence replaces feedback. These moments test your faith in the process. They demand trust, because growth often happens beneath the surface long before results appear. Roots deepen before trees rise. Acting like nothing is impossible does not mean denying struggle. It means refusing to let struggle define you. It means seeing obstacles as preparation, not punishment. It means understanding that resistance is proof that you are moving in a meaningful direction. When you choose this mindset, you stop living defensively. You stop avoiding failure. You stop shrinking your goals. Instead, you expand your vision, you raise your standards, you take ownership of your future, and over time, something remarkable happens. You begin to realize that the limits you once believed in were illusions. They were inherited fears, outdated stories, and borrowed doubts. They were never yours to carry. The moment you release them, you step into a new identity, an identity built on courage, discipline, purpose, and belief. And from that place, you don't just chase success, you create significance, you don't just dream, you become. And in that becoming, you discover the greatest truth of all. Nothing has ever been impossible for those who refuse to believe it was. Every person carries within them two lives, the life they are living and the life they are capable of living. The distance between those two lives is not talent, luck, or circumstance. It is belief. It is the quiet decision we make every day about what we think is possible for us. From an early age, we are taught to measure ourselves, to compare, to fit in, to stay within boundaries. Over time, those boundaries become invisible walls. We stop testing them. We stop questioning them. And eventually, we forget they were ever walls at all. We begin to live inside limits that were never meant to contain us. Acting like nothing is impossible is a choice, a courageous choice to step beyond what feels safe and familiar, a choice to trust that growth lives on the other side of discomfort, a choice to believe that the future can be greater than the past. Fear will always try to convince you to stay where you are. It will remind you of what could go wrong. It will replay your failures, it will magnify every risk, but fear has no interest in your progress. Its only goal is protection, and while protection can keep you safe, it can also keep you small. Growth demands courage. It demands that you act before you are ready, speak before you are confident, and move before you are certain. It requires faith in your ability to learn, adapt, and rise. The people who change their lives are not those who wait for fear to disappear. They are the ones who move forward while fear is still present. Discipline is what transforms intention into reality. It is the decision to keep going when excitement fades and results are slow. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about respect. Respect for your goals, respect for your potential, respect for the life you want to create. Each disciplined action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Consistency compounds. Small choices repeated daily shape your identity. What feels insignificant today becomes unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Progress is rarely dramatic. It is quiet. It is subtle. It is built in moments when no one is watching. And yet, over time, those moments change everything. Purpose gives meaning to effort. When your actions are connected to something larger than comfort or approval, struggle becomes meaningful. Sacrifice becomes intentional. Pain becomes part of a story that is worth telling. Purpose reminds you why you started when quitting feels easier than continuing. There will be times when doubt grows louder than hope, when progress feels invisible, when the path forward seems uncertain. These moments are not failures, they are tests of commitment. They ask you to decide who you truly are. Are you someone who stops when it's hard, or someone who continues because it matters? Acting like nothing is impossible does not mean expecting instant success. It means committing to persistent growth. It means choosing courage over convenience. It means refusing to let temporary discomfort steal long-term fulfillment. When you adopt this mindset, you begin to notice a shift. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop shrinking your dreams to fit into someone else's expectations. Instead, you expand into the person you were always meant to become. And slowly, quietly, powerfully, you begin to change. Your confidence deepens. Your resilience strengthens. Your vision grows clearer. You stop surviving and start building. You stop hesitating and start leading. Because the moment you decide to act like nothing is impossible, you reclaim ownership of your life. And in that ownership, you discover a truth that transforms everything. You were never meant to live a limited life. You were meant to rise, to grow, and to become more than you ever thought you could be. There comes a moment in every life when staying the same becomes more painful than the fear of change. A moment when the weight of unrealized potential becomes heavier than the comfort of familiarity. That moment is not dramatic. It is quiet. It happens in ordinary days, in silent reflections, in the space between who you are and who you know you could become. Most people feel this moment. Few choose to act on it. Acting like nothing is impossible begins with a single, powerful decision to no longer betray your future for the comfort of the present. It is a commitment to growth, even when growth feels uncertain. It is a promise to yourself that you will not let fear, doubt, or past failures decide what your life can become. Fear will tell you to wait, to prepare more, to become more, to delay. But fear does not speak truth. It speaks protection, and protection, while useful, often prevents transformation. Every meaningful breakthrough requires leaving something behind. Old beliefs, old habits, old identities. You cannot step into a new life while holding tightly to the one you've outgrown. Courage is choosing movement in the presence of uncertainty. It is acting when clarity is incomplete. It is trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. You do not need to see the entire journey to take the first step. You only need to believe that forward is better than standing still. Discipline becomes the structure that supports courage. Motivation fades, emotion shifts, but discipline remains. It is the quiet force that carries you through resistance, fatigue, and doubt. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now, and every disciplined action becomes proof of your commitment to the life you are building. Growth rarely announces itself. It happens in unnoticed choices, early mornings, late nights, uncelebrated effort. Silent persistence, it happens when no one is watching and applause is absent. Yet it is precisely in these moments that character is forged and destiny is shaped. Purpose gives weight to this effort. Without purpose, struggle feels heavy. With purpose, struggle feels meaningful. Purpose reminds you that your work matters, that your journey matters, that your growth matters. When your actions are aligned with something larger than comfort or approval, endurance becomes natural. There will be seasons when nothing seems to move, when progress feels slow, when results appear distant. These seasons are not punishment, they are preparation. They strengthen patience, they build resilience. They deepen trust. They teach you to persist without evidence and believe without certainty. Acting like nothing is impossible does not mean denying difficulty. It means refusing to be defined by it. It means choosing to see obstacles as training, not as verdicts. It means understanding that the struggle you face today is shaping the strength you will rely on tomorrow. Over time, a shift occurs. You stop asking, "Can I?" and begin asking, "How will I?" You stop fearing failure and start embracing growth. You stop waiting for opportunity and begin creating it, and in that transformation, you realize something extraordinary. The greatest limitation you ever faced was never external. It was the story you told yourself about what you could and could not do. The moment you change that story, you change everything. You begin to move with purpose, to act with courage, to persist with discipline, to believe with conviction. And in that commitment, you step into your full potential, not someday, not when you feel ready, but now. Because nothing becomes possible the moment you decide it already is.